we can't live without technology. And we have around 50 odd participants here. Just to ensure that there is more clarity, you all have been muted. You can unmute yourself, or you can raise the hand, we will unmute you. You can ask a question anytime during the session by way of chat. I'll pick up the question as the case may be. However, the objective is we resolve all the questions here and look at what is best to optimize the input tax credit. Now, when GST has come in, we all said that GST is a welcoming act because it has replaced service tax, excise and VAT, and cross utilization of input tax credit. That is something which was not available or not permitted earlier, is what we are looking at. So GST was like a savior, and we all have welcomed it, thinking that it is definitely going to help us. And I'm definitely in favor of GST, and it is going to resolve many things. However, when the act got implemented, it is not the same as many thought. As it went on, it further degraded, and many issues that have come up. Yeah. So if you want, you can always put a question in the chat. Yes. So as the implementation happened, there are a lot of challenges that have come to input tax credit. Let's quickly look at the provisions of the input tax credit, and we understand that. Then we look at the implementation challenges. I'm sure most of you are by now well versed on all the eligibilities and conditions of the input tax credit. And when I talk about eligibilities and conditions, we all know it is available only to a registered person. If someone is not registered person, then the input tax credit is not available to them. We have 6 primary conditions. Initially it is 4, and there are 3 provisos. But now as years passes, we are getting one more condition getting added. First and foremost, we have to avail input tax credit. You need to definitely have a document with you, and also the goods you should have been received. These are the 2 primary conditions. But government later inserted 16(2AA) in the previous finance budget and said that the details on which I am availing credit, such details should have been uploaded by the supplier. So the condition 16(2AA) was introduced in the previous finance. Then we also know that if I am availing the credit, supplier should have paid the taxes, and credit availment means not books of accounts. I should file the return. In my returns, it should be there. So since until last year, it was only 5 conditions. The 6th condition which is added this year, which is 16(2)(BA), which further goes and states that the input tax credit, which is communicated by the supplier to me, to the registered person, should not be a restricted credit under section 38. So even though I have made a purchase, I have the invoice, I received the goods, supplier has uploaded his GSTR-1, such credit is in my books of accounts, all have been fulfilled, still the credit is not available. This is going to be a new challenge that is going to come up. In the subsequent slide, I'll focus on what are those conditions that you need to look at. And that is where I always tell people that you should use a technology to leverage or optimize your input tax credit. And also you should look at how you can communicate to your suppliers or the team where their life is also smooth. Yeah. So going further on the conditions on the input tax credit, we all know that the 36 sub rule 4 got introduced in October 2019, wherein they said that okay, the quantum that needs to be availed is linked to the value which is visible in GSTR-2A. However, over the time it has changed. But as of now, the law stands You can only avail the credit if it is visible in your GSTR-2B, not 2A, it is 2B. I will also see the difference between 2A and 2B. So you can avail the input tax credit only if it is communicated to the registered person in GSTR form 2B. This is amended, updated in Rule 60 sub Rule 7. Prior to this, we had the prior to the budget which is amended now, the time limit to avail the input tax credit was 20th October, which is the September return due date or filing of the annual returns. This time limit is now extended till 30th November. So if you have not availed a credit owing to various reasons, that time limit to avail credit is extended till 30th November. Here, one caution which I would like to mention to everyone is there is utmost importance of always attending the sessions, getting updated time to time. A very simple reason, GST has huge compliance cost if you're not complying. If you're complying, it is well and good. If you're not complying, the cost of non-compliance is heavy. There are people who have been saying that the Finance Act has amended GST, so the time limit to avail the credit has increased till 30th November. The specific reason why I have retained that kept this slide is to tell you that it is still the September return, which is 20th October is the due date. Now you may say that the budget has amended the act. There are a couple of things you should be knowing about GST. Firstly, whenever an act is amended by the Union Minister, Honorable Finance Minister Sitharaman has presented the finance bill. This bill has to be approved and it has to become Finance Act. The moment it becomes an act, it gets CGST Act is amended. Not just that. Now, India, we also have an SGST Act. Respective states have to pass the SGST bill. We know the elections happening in 4 states. So the new government has to be formed and they have to table it in their budget and SGST Act should get amended. Let's say that happens, say 3 months. Now, the moment an act is amended, it is not necessary that those provisions are effective from the day in which it is enacted or it is there introduced into the act. If you read section 1, okay, subsection 3, the proviso clearly says the provisions of the act will come into the force as and when it is notified. That is why if you see the e-way bill was there from the day 1, but if you see the e-way bill interstate movement got enacted from 1st April 2018 on. So there are different sections which are come into effect on a different dates. On this note, you should know the time limit to avail the input tax credit even to date is still 20th October, but that is the due date of the September return or the filing of annual return, whichever is earlier. Now, this due date is definitely not applicable. If you are reversing for some specified reasons and re-availing, the due date is not applicable. Then there are certain restrictions which are available on the input tax credit in the law, which we all know, popularly known as blocked credit. 17 subsection 5 of the act deals with the credit, saying that even though this is for the business purpose, if it is used by the registered person and these have been for providing the taxable outward supplies, even though all are fulfilled, the government said, I am going to restrict the credit. So government was not intending or favoring to give an input tax credit with respect to motor vehicles, with respect to construction of the factory building or any works contract construction. Staff welfare activities, which is providing food to the employees or leave travel concession to the employees. In case if the goods have been lost, stolen or destroyed by the fire or whatever the reason, since they have not been put to use, no input tax credit available. Any life, health insurance, no input tax credit available. And if the goods have been withdrawn for the personal consumption, no input tax credit available. So these we all know that these credits are not available even though it is for the business purposes. So this is blocked under 17 subsection 5. There is another restriction which is there is based on the utilization or usage. Other than the credits that have been listed in the earlier slide, if there are some credits which have been purchased, generally is available. If my outward supply is taxable, the credits are available. It could be taxable domestic, including zero rated, supply to SEZ exports. So even though where it is zero rated, the credit is allowed. But if my outward supply is not taxable, I'm a school providing education services, I'm a hospital, or any other services which have been exempted by virtue of notification 2/2017 central tax or 12/2017 central tax for services. If it is exempted, you cannot take any input tax credit even though you are paying it as a cost. So this is going to become a cost because output is not taxable. The situation comes where there are certain supplies which is partly taxable and partly exempted. In such a scenario, we have to refer to Rule 42 and 43. So this is broadly on understanding on restrictions and usage of input tax credit. Any questions to anyone at this point? So because I've just given the basics so that we are on the same page and get a clarity. Any questions to any of the participants? Just to be clear that my voice is audible. Yes, okay. Kiran is asking to explain the restrictions on ITC once again. Kiran, the restrictions on ITC are twofolds. The first one, which I said, is if my outward supply is not taxable, no ITC. The second restriction which they have given is even if the outward supply is taxable, but the purchases are on account of motor car, which is not a goods vehicle, passenger vehicle, there are certain conditions. So key seating capacity should not be less than 13, then the credit is available. So seating capacity more of 13 is available, or it should not be a staff welfare item, or it is not a construction of works contract service, life insurance. So these are the credits which are made by regular purchase. You cannot take input tax credit. Is it employee medical insurance? Yes, you cannot take any health life insurance. But insurance taken for the fire, burglary, theft, or whatever for the office, the ITC is available. Hope this is clear. All right. Then let's look at the input tax credit utilization. See, we all know we have the input tax credit IGST, CGST, and SGST. Now, the GSTN plays a vital role in terms of settlement of the state and central revenue. Since it became a single tax, all the taxes goes to the center and center distributes the taxes in two forms. Whatever is the SGST revenue goes to the SGST. Then the CGST revenue, a portion of the revenue has been retained by the center and the balance is distributed to the states. Then the IGST also goes towards a settlement mechanism. There is a formula basis which it has to be utilized. So the government intends to keep the IGST credit as low as possible or minimal. So they have been given a condition. There is a manner of utilization and order of utilization. So in the order of the utilization, the IGST credit has to be exhausted first. Government doesn't want to carry forward any IGST credit. In fact, in many sessions, some of the people used to say, okay, if you find you have an input tax credit which is not eligible and you have a doubt, you avail it and keep it, do not utilize it. There is no option of not utilizing possible for certain credits, that is like IGST credit. So government wants to exhaust your IGST credit. So there is no way you can take a scenario that, okay, there will be a provisional credit or credit you will be taking only on temporary basis and you will not utilize, not possible. So IGST credit has to be utilized and it can be used towards your settlement of your IGST liability first. Whatever is the left, you can use in any manner, whether you want to use it to CGST half, SGST half, or CGST full, SGST full. Choice is of user. In GSTR-3B, there is an auto matching process where it is automatically allocated to CGST. In fact, most of the people I also noticed during the audits that they would be left with a balance of input tax credit in CGST ledger and they remit SGST taxes. So there is always a mismatch because the system is auto utilizing to CGST. You can change it. While filing your GSTR-3B, you can actually change it and put it into a right manner. Because if you notice, whenever in a month, if you're paying, let's say, a tax of 75,000, you would, if you notice, you wouldn't be paying 37,500 SGST, 37,500 CGST. There would be a difference in the money which you are depositing. Anyhow, thankfully, today they have given the PMT09 for movement of the cash balance from one head to other head. Any major head to any minor head, that is permitted. You people should use that if you find that there is a balance available in one year ledger. After the IGST, if there is a CGST. So we have, I'm explaining both order of utilization and manner of the utilization. The order IGST credit has to be utilized first. And the manner in which it is used, like CGST, I will offset my CGST liability. Anything which is left out, I can use towards my IGST liability. And please note, I can use only towards IGST liability. I cannot use towards SGST. Likewise, the SGST credit, it can be used to SGST liability. And after utilizing of liability, if I have any ITC left, I can use the balance ITC to IGST. So the cross utilization between CGST and SGST is not permitted. So leaving that, all credits can be cross utilized. This is the provisions we have on the input tax credit, both on order of utilization and manner of utilization. Any doubts to anyone at this point? I can see there are two questions earlier. One by Lakshmi Kant. Advocate charges paid against RCM paid, is it eligible to avail credit? Yeah. So Mr. Lakshmi Kant, any input tax credit, whether it is forward charge or reverse charge, has to go through the same test of eligibility. First, whether taxable outward or exempt outward. Then after that, is it in the blocked credit? So if you are paying a reverse charge services to ITC on the services availed from the advocate, you still have to see whether your output is taxable. Only then you will be able to take the input tax credit. Then there is a question from KR Suru, is if there is a compulsion by Factory Act for providing a canteen facility, then can one avail the input tax credit? Though I have said there are certain credits which are restricted, we have to again go through in detail. 17 subsection 5 is a chapter by itself. There are certain exceptions. Like I said, a motor vehicle input tax credit cannot be availed. Who cannot avail? I, as a regular businessman using it for the business purpose, I cannot avail. But if it is like a dealer, like Hyundai dealer, he is buying a motor vehicle and selling vehicle, so he can avail. So likewise, for every restriction, there are certain provisos, and one of it, which Mr. Suru rightly pointed out, that if such provision is made under a mandatory act by a law, then those credits are available. However, one have to establish that it is mandated by an act. It is mandated by an act or a provision of the law. And when we say provision of the law, we are only talking about state government and central laws formed by state government and central government, and not the local bodies, which is municipality and panchayat. So like example, if you have late night women employees working, and if in a state, if the state government said provide a cab facility, then those services which you are utilizing, you can avail the credit. So you have to also go through the fine ratings or wherever it is not eligible. And also I request participants to change your name so that I know there's someone by accounts 5 who has written RCM paid for transport charges. Is it eligible for ITC? Yes, it is very much eligible for ITC, provided your output is taxable. Then there's a personal question, Jatin, can we take RCM credit in the same month, or should we take it in the next month? RCM credit can be availed in the same month. So the same month you will be paying, and you are also availing input tax credit. Now you will ask me that, okay, why do I pay and avail? Is it like isn't it not tax neutral? The answer is yes, but it is same like any other forward charge credit. So you have to pay and avail. You cannot say, since I am availing, it is revenue neutral, I will not be paying. That argument will not fly in the court of the law. Then there is a question by Arun Kumar. What is the rule number for the transferring of ITC? Arun, I have said about not transferring of ITC. I said if there's a balance in cash ledger, it can be moved from one head to other head. I'm not talking about transferring of ITC. A transfer of an ITC would arise only if there is a sale, demerger, or anything of that happening under 18 subsection 3, read with rule 44. In those scenarios, you will file ITC 02 and you will transfer the ITC. Then question from Rahul is on CSR credit. What is the opinion? Rahul, CSR credits are litigated. So the department would say that you have gifted or given off the input tax credit on those goods which have been given by way of gifts or donation will not be eligible for input tax credit. Shakti is asking, is ITC eligible on construction of a factory or an office building? The answer is plain no. You cannot take any input tax credit on construction services. Then can we take ITC credit on EDLI premium paid on company employees? So the ITC, whenever you are paying the insurance premium to ESI, and if the ESI is charging any ITC on it, on the premium charges, still you cannot, because it is a state health insurance. So no ITC on life and health insurances. Then RCM bill are more in books than uploaded less in website. We have to pay as per books or as per website. Gopinath, you will have to pay as per books of accounts and not as per website. Okay. I think we have taken the questions. Let's move to the other restrictions that are available in the law. Then even though you have the eligible ITC, there's one more restriction which has come up by rule 86B, where the government is notifying certain category of the persons. Of course, most of you might not fit in that, saying that at least 1% of the tax liability to be discharged by cash. However, this is not applicable to a registered person or the directors, partners, promoters, wherever at least they have paid 1 lakh income tax, or if you have a refund which you're claiming by way of IGST refund on exports or inverted duty structure, you're claiming and the value is more than 1 lakh, not applicable. Or if you are in a scenario where that during first couple of months you paid more something using cash, but later you are not paying, so in those scenarios not applicable. Otherwise, now government is expecting that at least 1% of the tax liability to be paid by cash, and balance can be discharged to input tax credit. Again, if this is not applicable for those specified conditions, I would request you to refer to rule 86B in detail, but being aware of this is very important. Moving to the matching of input tax credit, which we are now talking about reconciliations and 2A versus 2B. Firstly, this restrictions earlier from July 17 to October 19, there hasn't been any restriction. So there's no express other than 16 subsection 2, those 4 conditions and 3 provisos, nothing else in the law. Then starting 9th October 2019, the rule 36(4) inserted and said whatever is been furnished by the supplier plus 20% you can avail. Starting Jan 20, the 20% made to 10%. Starting Jan 21, it became 5%, and effective Jan 22. So every year they have been cutting down, and they said that nothing doing, only if it is visible by in your portal, in your 2B, you can take the credit. Not visible in 2B, you cannot take the credit. This is what it has been mentioned. Now let us look at what is 2A, 2B and the importance of reconciliations. It is very much important that now you reconcile your books of accounts and avail the credit. What do I mean by that? I have certain entries in my books of accounts, so there is list of the data. I have certain entries in the government portal, there is list of data. Basis my books of accounts and 2B is what I avail the input tax credit. Availment of input tax credit means I am reporting a value in table 4A of GSTR-3B, 4A1 to 4A5, and predominantly 4A5 is all other ITC, which is your forward charges purchase. That is where you are reporting. So the happy path, easy route is there is a credit available in the books of accounts, and credit available in 2B, take those credits, no issue. The next thing that comes up is that credit is there in books of accounts, but not there in 2B. It is there in the books of accounts, but not in 2B. In such a scenario, you have to park it. You carve it out from your books of accounts. You carve it out from your books of accounts and park it. Now, where do I park it? How do all those things? I'll take you with an example. The next thing that comes up is, okay, I have not accounted in the books because the invoice has not received. So it is not there in the books of accounts, but it is there in 2B. Can I avail the input tax credit? Again, answer is no. The primary conditions have not been fulfilled. You should have an invoice. You should have received the goods. So even this, you cannot avail the ITC. Again, you have to park it. So you are looking at all the line items between books of accounts and 2B, and you are parking. First month, it is pretty simple, pretty easy because we are doing it. What do I do with this parked entries? Carry forward to the next month and do the reconciliation. Not just this, the impact issue is this mismatch of the previous month effects, because I have not accounted in the books of accounts in the previous month. I have accounted in the current month. If I do a comparison with the current month and current month 2B, it will not be there in the 2B. That doesn't mean that you cannot take the credit, right? So you've got to bring forward the credits which you have not ever. That is where you will have to need a software if you want to really comply with the provisions of the law and get the maximum usage of the provisions of the law to be complied and the maximum input tax credit to be availed. Use a software, because today even if you have 15 invoices and 15 line items every month, if you have to manually do that, it is a mundane job. And software does a beautiful reconciliation. In fact, at the end, we have a demo of how a report comes up. So if I, though this is not an exhaustive presentation, if I have to now say that what is the credit that you will have to take in the month, you can do any method. This is like a bank reconciliation. You can start with the bank book and arrive at the bank statement, or you start with the bank statement, arrive at the bank book. Say, let's say I'm taking GSTR-2B as the basis. So I will take GSTR-2B as a basis. First, I will remove ineligible credits. Like as I said, motor card, food, health, all those things, I'll remove it. Next, I will also remove those credits which I have already availed. You may say, how is it already available? How could you avail? Because earlier these conditions were there, 20%, 10%, 5%. So using that, I have already availed a credit which is not there in 2B. I will reduce that. Then I would also reduce the credits. I would also reduce the credit. In fact, someone was putting on the chat that, okay, I am unable to join. You can visit the GSTZen official YouTube channel. You will be able to watch the session live even on that. Maybe I request Vatsa or Bharti to share the link of the YouTube in the chat for the benefit of others. Maybe in the waiting room, you can put the chat. Yeah. So the goods received in the next month or the invoices received in the next month, remove it from the 2B. Next, error is human. You might find some credits. You will find one minute. I guess there is a technical glitch. Yeah. Okay. Hope I'm audible now. If yes, just put it as yes in the chat, and don't worry, your question might have been not answered in last. You can put the question back at a later. This is the problem when we are doing remotely. Okay, great. Good everyone.
Recording in progress. Maybe. नहीं है नहीं है भैया लकड़ी वाला भी
Yeah, so we are back now. Just to repeat, so you start with the value which is there in GSTR-2B. You will carve out all those credits that you cannot take. You cannot take because it is an ineligible credit. You cannot take because you have already availed it in the earlier month. You cannot take because either you did not receive the goods or the invoices. You cannot take if it is appearing it by mistake in your GSTR-2B. Okay, I derive a value. To that value, you have to add those you did not take in the earlier period because the books are not there, whatever be the reason, you have to add all those which are bringing forward. You can also add other credits where is basis bill of entry, reverse charge, which you have not taken. You have to add all those things. Arrive at a value that you can claim in GSTR-3. This is what a software is going to help you when you are doing it, that how much of the credits you have been carrying forward month over month. That is what it will be helping you to do that. Now, so when you do the matching of the credit, you should be able to put into various brackets. No action to be taken, everything is matched. Something I'm carrying forward to the next month. So this is something which you have to manually reconcile and keep it with you. This is the essential of the order of the day. Otherwise, I will say that you will have to find a reason why you are not taking or why the credits are being taken. Now, let us address the important point of the discussion. Let us address the important point of the discussion, which is 2A versus 2B. This has been something where the people always want to know. Is in case if I have 2A, I have 2B, both are showing some different value. What is the value I should pick, or what is the value I should rely upon? I have been knowing 2A from long, suddenly 2B has come. So though you've been hearing using it, let's quickly look at the both. Firstly, 2A came in roughly in 1 year later than 2017. 2B came in July 20. Now, the primary difference between 2A and 2B is if a supplier is uploading an invoice relating to Jan 21 by way of his return. So he is filing his January 21 return. Ideally, he should file it in February. Instead of filing his Jan 21 return, he is filing in May. Since he is filing his return late, it doesn't mean that it will not be there in my 2A. It will continue to be there in my 2A. So 2A is a placeholder to capture all the credits that are going to come for that particular month. Jan R1 will be Jan 2A. If it is pertaining to February R1, it will be February 2A. 2A and GSTR1 are mirror replica. 2A and GSTR1 are mirror replica. But contrary, 2B is summation for a period. So if the supplier he is filing his return of Jan 21 in May 21, then it would be visible in 2B. From the accounting terminology, I can say 2A goes like an accrual basis, 2B goes like a receipt and payment. So that month, whatever the credits have come will be there in 2A. 2A is the credits for that month. 2B is credits in that month. So the credits in that month could be of that month or could be of any of the previous month. But when I talk about credits for the month, whenever the GSTR-1 is filed, 1 month later, 5 months later, it would be going back to the respective 2A of the recipients of that month. So the primary difference between 1 and 2A, 1 is kind of an accrual which is available or which is the representative of the month, and 2B is the credits which can be availed in that month. Like if I extract a GSTR-2B of January, it will have my December purchases, September purchases, October purchases, also January purchases, basis the people who filed the return starting from 12th January till 11th of the February. It will be having all the purchases or the credits. So that is the period concept. So my 2A is going basis the GSTR-1 date, 2B is going basis the date filing GSTR-2B. And 2A is not containing the details of the segregation of eligible, ineligible, all those things. So there are different sections of 2A and 2B. Primary moot question people always ask is, what is that I should use? Which is the document I should use? Should I reconcile my books of accounts with 2A or should I reconcile with my 2B? I would put it this way. What is the source of reconciliation? How are you reconciling? Are you using an accounting software to reconcile, or are you are accounting or ASP software like GSTZen and others? So if you are using a software to reconcile, then you can use 2B, because software can do that as a data custodian and capture the information. If you say no, I am manually reconciling, I am picking 1 month and doing from my books of accounts and doing, then I would say use GSTR-2A. Like today, if you want to reconcile for the month of November 21, you cannot take November 2B, 21 2B to reconcile November purchases in your books of accounts. Your November purchases will be there in November, December, January, February of any of the 2B. Even the supplier has filed late, it will still be there in the 2A. So the methodology which you are using for reconciliation would matter. Point number 1. Point number 2, the timing at which you want to do. As on the date of 20th or as in the date of the payment to the supplier, you before you make the payment to your supplier, you want to ensure whether they have filed. Let's say it is after the month end. So the generation date of 2B happens only on 13th midnight. So only once it is a static return gets generated once. So if you can't wait till the next month to take the decision whether the supplier has uploaded, not uploaded, all those things, then you have to take GSTR-2A. Again, be watchful that the entries coming in 2A will not be finalized unless R1 is filed. Whether or not R1 is filed, the 2A is visible because it is a mirror document, but with a disclaimer saying that R1 is filed or no. So there's a counterparty filing status, CFS we call it, as whether the CFS is yes or a no. So you should also be available of how to use the information between 2A and 2B. And by now you are clear with the issues between 2A and 2B. Firstly, the challenges is you will have multiple lines in your 2A. So that totals and everything, because when most of you would have downloaded an Excel report from the government portal and you have seen, you will have to filter out for those lines where there are blanks and subtotals. You need to remove that. Second, while removing, you also look at whether the counterparty has filed a GSTR-1 or not. So apply a filter and remove those lines if they have not filed it. And the invoices always gets corrected by way of credit note, debit note, and amendments. So you also look for whether the invoice is amended. If it is amended in a larger set of the data, there will be an original invoice and the amended invoice. So you should ignore the original invoice and you should look at the amended invoice. And there could also be a situation where the invoice is matching at PAN level and not just in level. That is, like I have made a supply to you and you are in, let's say, Bombay, but the purchase order I have received from Delhi. So while raising the invoice, since the goods have gone to Bombay, by mistake I have given the invoice to Bombay office, but even though the purchase order has come from Delhi office. So Delhi office would have recorded it as a purchase because they are the one who are making the payment. But the ITC is sitting in the Bombay office. So you also need to do some missed out credits at a PAN level so that this is taken care. Now, what is more important is how do you deal with once the reconciliation is done? What are the action points that you are going to take? How do you track that? What are the credits that you want to carry forward? What you want to follow up with the supplier? And here is where I will always say that one should be using a software or technology. So before I get on to a demo of the technology, a quick walkthrough on the new provisions that have come in the budget one should be aware of relating to input tax credit. As I said, the time limit to avail has been moved to 30th November from 30th September. Please note, whatever you are seeing in the slide has to get notified. Only once it is notified, this will be effective, right? So the time limit has been extended. The additional conditions have been prescribed. Even though it is visible in 2B, you cannot take the credit. Government wants to put additional checks. Like a newly registered supplier, they don't want a fly-by-night operators operating the fraudulent tax credit. So newly registered, I just pass on some 1 crore invoice with 18 lakhs. Government says, no, I'll put a new rules. Even though it is visible in 2B, but the supplier has a tax default. He has not paid the taxes. So this is let all the recipient of the supplier not take the credit. There are less tax defaults or there are no tax default, but the value reported in 3B as a liability is lower than the value which has been reported in GSTR-1. And by the way, whatever I'm saying, it is nothing pertains to me. It is all my suppliers. My supplier has done something or not done something is affecting. So supplier has filed his R1 as 100 rupees and in his 3B he filed 80 rupees. Because he has filed 20 rupees less, all those the recipients in his one is will be restricted. Let's say he has reported R1 and 3B value correct, but his eligible input tax credit in as per his 2B is 60 rupees, but he has claimed 80 rupees in his 3B. So he has availed 20 rupees more. So all his recipients are also blocked. Or he is using ITC as a mode. Like we have saw that 99% restriction is there. Beyond that, 1% cash has to be paid. So he has utilized ITC for paying taxes. In such certain situations, the recipients are restricted. On top of it, a class of people will be notified. Like if the government feels that, okay, there is a circular trading and a bill trading happening. So they will put a list, okay, these people, even though they're not fitting into any of the above conditions, if you're making a purchase from these people, the credit will not be visible. Now, if you have to watch for these conditions regularly, it is a Herculean task. Again, I would say if you use a software, at least the software will keep updating on a regular basis, watching out for these defaults or willful creditors and warn you in advance that, okay, it is going to cost you, right? So this is what is going to happen. How does technology will help you? See, the technology will help you in multiple ways. Firstly, the large amount of data, it can be done. Reconciliation, you will be thinking that, okay, I cannot do regularly. I will do once in a year. But when you use a software, any number of times you can do it. And this software can help you to track credits that you have not taken or credits not there in 2B, still you have taken, you have carry forward. Or I have, it is there in books and my suppliers are not uploading. It will automatically send one reminder mails where the supplier will can automatically take action on it. These credits which I talked about, matching at a PAN level, not matching in GSTN level. So there should be a cross billing that you should do. All these things will be handled by the software. That is why I always say people have to use a software, right? So what we do is let's look at a live demo of the software and we'll come back looking at Q&A. Let me share the and in the meantime, if you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat. So here is my GSTZen account. I'm logging in. Okay. So here is a demo GSTZen demo account which I am using. Now, all that I intend to do is I want to reconcile my books of accounts with the government data. So I can use purchase register versus 2A or purchase register versus 2B. As I said, if you're using software, 2B is the better because it will automatically help you to shift from one place to one other place. But you can still use 2A. Let's say I want to do it for financial year 21-22. Again, why I always say advantages of using a software is the data happens, like if you see you do not have any data, I haven't downloaded April 21 to 22. Let me log into the government portal you can log in with the username password, or you can log in with the OTP. Both are permitted. So I am logging in with the OTP. So okay, so you got to enter an OTP, and it is one time an activity. So this is an invalid. Yeah. So I said it said you're logged in with the OTP, and I want to download the April to Jan data, April, May, June, July, August. So let me say select all, download from the government portal. Now, again, why I suggest always use technology is if you have to do this exercise manually, every time you click a button, it generates a JSON on an Excel file. It says wait for 15 minutes. I will have to wait, then consolidate, download everything. Now, advantage of software, you can see as I clicked it on a click of a button, it will do by itself in the backend. Then the next thing is I can upload my books of accounts. So it is asking me to upload books of accounts. There is an Excel template. If you are using Tally, SAP or anything, there are automatically predefined connectors. I say I want to integrate using my the data. So there is an application, and I have my Tally data which is ready. So the purchase register, everything is there. So it is automatically reading the data. So it is picking the data directly. It is connecting to the Tally. So I'll say, okay, use this company. Oh, okay. Sorry, I am creating a fresh thing. I could continue. No problem. So let's say I want to do it from, well, let's do it from 1st April of last year. First April to 31st Jan of this year, since we have downloaded the data for till Jan. So let me pick it till 31st Jan. I am saying import vouchers. So what it is doing is it is automatically connecting to the Tally data, and it is ready, which is otherwise again a manual job or a hassle to extract this data, read it, put it into an Excel, put it into a template, or use some pivot tables or VLOOKUP. So that process is also eliminated. And Tally is just one example which I'm giving. It could be any accounting software of yours, in-house driven or anything. It can do. The beauty of this tool, I'll just show you once it shows. Firstly, it is happening in minutes. It is also correlating the relevant data under relevant head and seeing whether everything is matching or not matching. So when I say it is matching or not matching, let's say as a Venu and Vinay Chartered Accountants, I'm issuing an invoice to your firm. In GSTR-2A, it would be visible as Venu and Vinay Chartered Accountants. But in your books of accounts, you would have entered either as an audit fees or professional charges or legal fees. So this tool is also parallelly correlating the vendor and an expenditure for you to know whether there are any RCM bills that you have not accounted, or you have a liabilities which have been parked into some ledger other than expenditure ledger. All those analysis it would be done. So you can see the data has moved from tally to this automatically, and it said that okay, there is an amount of 33 crores, 2.9 crores CGST, 2.9 SGST, some 21 lakhs IGST from 3rd April to 31 Jan. And it also said, okay, there are 4 invoices where the GST number is wrong. We can go back and correct it. Or at this point, I will say, okay, I would confirm and I want to save this interest, which means data has been read, loaded into GSTZen reconciliation engine. So I can also download this XLS and see how it is showing up. So let me open the Excel value. So now the data has come into GSTZen. Let's go back here and just a quick walkthrough we can do. I will see reconciliation between purchase register and 2B. Let me open the reconciliation. This is my action points. So I have downloaded the portal data. I have downloaded the books data. Now I am saying that run purchase details matchup. So it has various logic. Invoice date may not be accurate. So I'll say maximum days difference. I'm okay for 30 days difference. I'm okay for a tax difference of 200 rupees. I'll say run intelligent matchup. So it, even if there are differences, it will be running a difference. So it has matched everything. Let's see. Let's download the report and see. So we have just completed my step 1, step 2, step 3. If I want to apply a filter and do a further filtered report, we can do that also. You can see there are total number of 370 books in the portal and the matching. Let us just download the data. Okay. To start with, let's see the purchase register which has been imported into GSTZen. This is what I was mentioning. These are all my purchases which automatically got matched, imported into GSTZen supplier wise. Now that's something which was easy. It also has picked, okay, look, there are other ledgers where there is a GST, but I'm not considering because I don't think it is pertaining to input tax credit. It also brought me the trial balance. It said, okay, you are doing a reconciliation between April to June, December, whatever is the period. So this is the trial balance and the respective ledgers which are there in tally. So let's say we are looking at indirect expenses and my purchases and direct expenditure. So it has brought in whichever is the ledger and what is the parent and the primary group under which and what is the amount. And very beautifully, it has also done an expense reconciliation. When I say expense reconciliation, this is what I was saying, that see, this bank charges, I have said that in your thing, it is showing as bank charges. But in GSTR-2B, it will not be showing as bank charges. It would be some party name. So it went and picked that party name and did a mapping of it. Like this is IGST paid on food or inspection fees which I have paid 6,053. So it has found out 6,053 has been paid to so and so supplier. So in my tally purchase register, it tried to do a mapping of the GST vendor wise. So the supplier name has been picked and also the expense category has been picked. The supplier name is matched with my GSTR-2B or 2A. The expense category is matched with the government portal data. This is what the reconciliation is going to be happening when you do using a software. That is why I always say that you should use a software. If we have to do this manually, it would take quite a long time. It would take a quite long time. Now let's look at the reconciliation engine. So what did the reconciliation report shows? So I can download a reconciliation basis my invoice date. I can download a reconciliation basis my 3B claim date. If someone has a someone marking that which month you want to claim, which month purchases you are claiming, you can do a reconciliation. I can download a reconciliation basis GSTR-2B file. I can do any of the download. Let me download basis my GSTR-2B reconciliation. Let me click this section. So here is the GSTZen reconciliation. Let me just open this. And here there is an option where I can do my matching and mapping. All those adjustments is something which I can do it. Yeah. Yes. So now you can see there are totally 370 invoices. Of 370 invoices, it has listed, see, 344 invoices, I have matched it perfectly. When I say matched, it could be 100% matching. So that those 344, you can see down. Let me scroll, zoom it a little bit. So of 344, it said this, I have exactly matching, there is only one invoice, but there is a very strong match for it, or there's a weak match, because I might have recorded and the voucher 1 day late, 1 day after, or I would have rounded off to the rupees. All those things could have happened. So the reason why they have said is, okay, there is a days, there is a 0 days, but maybe some rupees difference, or 1 to 3 days difference. So you can see that 340 is also is categorized into a different thing. So you also have a summary of how you have done the reconciliation, including if you have wrongly reconciled a place of supply. It says that there is one mismatch. It is there, but the place of supply which you have recorded is not matching. Meaning, in my books of accounts, I have recorded as IGST, but in the portal it is there as CGST, SGST. See, these all different types of combinations of reconciliation, it will do it by itself. That's again the advantage of it. I can see a summary here, or I can move to a GSTR2 reconciliation, which is a detailed report, which gives all situations that are possible, saying whether the supplier has any amended any invoice or not. I can see the supplier wise, and I can also go to the end and see what is the categorization, whether it is there only in the books of accounts, only in the portal, or it is there in both the places. I can actually categorize into this thing. Let's say if there is an invoice which is there only in the books of accounts, and these are the invoices where I have recorded and maybe different parties, it is there only in the books of accounts. Then all that I can do is, okay, choose an action. Whether what do you want to do? You want to do a reconciliation, you want to write an email to the supplier, you want to lock it as unmatched, or you want to review. You can put a classification, you can upload back. You can see, in fact, this comes with a GSTZen thing. I can say that, okay, look, I want to send an email to the supplier. I can change my status and say that please write an email to the supplier, and I say that, okay, upload to update it in GSTZen. So this will update the status in the GSTZen, saying that, okay, trigger an email to the supplier. So that supplier says that, okay, look, I have already sent it to for filing, maybe it is late, whatever. So you are also building a communication that why the credit is not taken. This is the advantage of using a software. In fact, there are many features, but I just want to give you a glimpse that how you can take an action. If something there is there only in the portal, it is not there in the books, there are some line items which are there only in the portal. Now it means that you have not accounted this. So the bill is lying with someone, or you have done inclusive on an account inclusive basis. It could be any reason. So you can go back to the accountant, or this is a case of transportation charges. So you can see whether it is a reverse charge. So whether you have to pay it on yourself. All those things you can take a action on. So friends, these are the various things one should be aware of the input tax credit related provisions and how a technology will help you in simplifying your life. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. So let us go over the Q&A if you have any. And before that, I would request if any of the GSTZen team, maybe Bharti, Vatsa, if you have to add something that I have missed, you can share your points.
Sir, there are a few pending questions.
Okay, we'll go over the questions.
Please explain RCM on import of services.
Okay. So there were questions that people wanted to know on RCM is why RCM? See, RCM is input tax credit or GST is always borne by the end customer. So the buyer has to pay taxes to the government. In case of a forward charge, I pay to the supplier, supplier is paying to the government. In case of a reverse charge, I only pay taxable value to the supplier. The tax amount I pay to the government directly. So most of the purchases where you do not have an input tax credit, check for RCM. One of that category is import of services. So when I import some services, which is like I would have paid to say Google Australia or something to the LinkedIn and purchase something. Now I would have already swiped the card and paid the taxes there. I am booking it as an expenditure. Equivalent amount of it, I have to pay taxes, import of services under reverse charge. So I report it in my 3B and again avail it as input tax credit under my 4A2.
We have excess RCM credit in the electronic credit ledger that we have not been able to utilize. Can we encash it, get it?
Okay, so the question is, if I have an excess balance in my electronic credit ledger, can I take a refund of it? The answer cannot be a straight yes. Section 54 provides you the reasons when you can take the refund. One is inverted duty structure or you are making an export. If it is not these two scenarios, then if you have a balance input tax credit owing to RCM, you cannot claim a refund of it.
I'm going to surrender my GST. Can I get the electronic credit ledger balance?
If I surrender my GST and can I take a refund of my electronic credit ledger balance? This is a litigated contention. So in fact, one of the matter is already in the court where under the erstwhile regime, they said they should be allowed. But you should also look while you are closing down the business, you will be filing a final return and you should be filing ITC 03 where you discharge the GST on the closing stock or the capital goods which is not utilized, and then you can actually go for a situation whether you can claim the refund or not.
GSTR-2B does not show the 3B filing status of the supplier. Should I consider that while claiming ITC or should I ignore?
Yeah. So even though GSTR-2B is the basis, the GSTR-2B will not or cannot show the supplier filing status because 2B is generated on 13th midnight. The supplier will start filing 3B after 13th until 20th. Once 2B is generated, 2B will not be amended, edited. So the 3B filing status will never be there in 2B. Now, can I go ahead and take a credit basis? That the answer is yes. After the new amendment, which is section 38, where 2BA comes up with the new conditions, the portal will come up with a mechanism of showing that how much credits you have already availed will be blocked. If you see the conditions listed in section 38 subsection 2, there are 6 listing. Only the first one and the last one is pertaining to the current month. Early, all other conditions are pertaining to the credits already which you have availed. So portal has to come up with a new mechanism of restricting already availed credits.
If the ITC in 2B is more than my books, can I claim the credit in later months?
Yeah. If my ITC, which is there in the current month, is higher than the books of accounts, I am using the books of accounts and taking a lower credit. Can I forward to the next month and utilize? Answer is yes. Next month, whenever you are booking the expenditure or the ITC, you can claim the credit.
If I have bill of entry hard copy, but it is not transmitted to my GSTR-2B, can we take credit? This is for import of goods.
Yeah. So import of goods, even though they have done an integration with IceGate and SEZ, the portal for the transmitting of the data, sometimes the credit might not be visible. You can take one of the condition under Rule 36 is to claim the input tax credit having a document that is bill of entry. If you have bill of entry document, you can use that as a basis and claim the input tax credit. Just check under the bill of entry, the supplier who is importer on record should be your GSTN number.
IGST on ocean freight, is it under RCM payable?
This matter is under Supreme Court. In fact, the hearings are going on. Last week, there were effective hearings both from the Government of India side and the SSC side. This matter should definitely be resolved very soon. As of now, the department contention is on the ocean freight also RCM is payable.
Is there any restriction on reversal of ITC, like number of months or years, if the goods and service is not sold? Like you have not
once availed the input tax credit, it will always be there in your credit ledger, and there is no restriction that you have to utilize within such and such a period, or there is no restriction that you should sell the goods within such period. It both are independent and it can be happen anytime.
Supplier filed his GST returns, but ITC is not visible in the customer's 2B. Please advise how to claim ITC.
This is a classic scenario where the supplier have filed their GSTR-1 after 11th. What will happen is it would be visible in 2A, will not be visible in 2B. So what should you do is you should park this and you should avail it as input tax credit in the subsequent month. It would be visible in the subsequent month 2B and not the current month 2B.
I think the question is invoice is not appearing at all.
But there is very unlikely that if the line item is visible in 2A and this counterparty filing status is yes, there is very unlikely that the invoice is not visible. In case if something like that, then it is only GSTN who has to resolve, but very unlikely. Yeah. Then there is
ISD credit same.
There's one question on ISD. Can I claim on the same month? Answer is yes. Yes, Tariq, you can claim on the same month. Can we be able to take credit GST for ISO certification process charges for the company? Anything you are incurring for the company other than those 17 subsection 5 which is blocked, you can take the credit. It's like I am purchasing a chair on which I'm sitting and doing work, you can take the credit. Even though you are not in the business of selling chair or the furniture, you can take the credit. Shakti is asking how do we reconcile SEZ invoice? Shakti, I would say that the same process. The SEZ invoices are to be treated as import of goods. In case of SEZ services, SEZ will be filing as a forward charge and you can do. In case if it is goods, the SEZ is kind of debonding and the importer has to, or the DTA unit will be paying. Purchase from SEZ is same like import of goods. Please reconcile with bill of entry. If I take ITC as per 2B only, is it risky? How? I wouldn't say it is risky, Bharti, but I would only say that you need to have a reconciliation, because the 2B might have a credit doesn't belong to you. By mistake, someone has used your GSTN and uploaded, or you've been making purchases in the books not appearing in 2B. At one point in time, you need to have a reconciliation between books and 2B. So you cannot blindly say that, okay, I'll be going by 2B and do not do any reconciliation.
Could you clarify the RCM concept again? Because everybody is asking the same question. Can I take RCM credit in the same month? It's like third or fourth time.
Yeah. So under the erstwhile law, under service tax regime, see, the RCM credit is eligible only after payment of the tax. So between the service tax and VAT to the GST regime, various provisions have got changed. So one has to be very, very clear. Under GST, we have been introduced about section 41, which is a provisional credit, where the government intended to say that every credit you will take is a provisional credit, and we will bring in a matching concept under section 42 and 43, both for ITC and the liability. However, in the amended budget, so they have removed this concept of GSTR 1, 2, 3 eternally. It is not going to come. So they buried those provisions, and they have said that okay, new mechanism will come. So under the GST law, there is no condition that the RCM has to be taken after payment of tax. It's only that you should have paid the RCM liability in cash. That's the only requirement of the law.
I think there is a question that invoices prior to 2022, that is December 31st and prior, can I now claim the credit even though it is not appearing in 2B?
Okay. So the provision of 36 Sub-Rule 4 got changed only from the financial year this 22, that is effective 1st Jan 22. That means any return that is filed on or after 1st Jan 22, any return pertaining to April 21 also, you have to follow the provisions of standing as on that date. So you cannot take a credit if it is not there in 2B. That is the.
I think we have answered most questions. If anybody wants further, they can raise their hand.
Yeah, if you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can raise a hand, we can unmute. And you want to know more about how to use the software, you can reach Bharti or Vatsa can share the coordinates, and you can reach it to us. And I'm here, though it's 4:05. You can. I'm here for some more time. You can ask the questions. Yes.
Hey, this is Saktivel, and I have one question.
Yes, sir.
So, if I have purchased the goods from SEZ zones, but the data
Correct.
is not available in GSTR-2B,
Okay.
but I have a document, can we take credit?
Yes, you can take the credit the moment you make a purchases from SEZ on goods. You should have bill of entry filed in your name. Basis the bill of entry, you can take the input tax credit.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And I would also say that there is a feature which is given under GSTN, where you enter the bill of entry number. It will pull the data from the ICE gate. It will and add it to your account. It will take 2 working days. Even that is going. That will also happen.
It is in the GSTZen, am I right?
GSTN portal. There is a under services import the bill of entry details. You can use that feature, and you can enter the bill of entry number. It will take 2 working days, and it will update.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question someone would like to unmute and ask? All right. So it's great to have interaction. And these sessions, we are going to have it regularly. Please subscribe to the GSTZen YouTube account, and also to the mails for subscription.
Sir, the session is very nice. So, can you share the PPT?
Sir, someone was asking the question.
Hey, I am Saktivelan. Your
Yeah.
session is very nice, very good. So,
Okay.
I need that PPT which you have shared.
Yeah, so there were some questions on whether many people asked, can you share the presentation? Yes, this presentation copy would be made available on the all the people who have subscribed for the session. You will be getting a copy of this. And those who have asked the price of the software, I would request you reach to the support number.
I am using GSTZen.
No problem. Very good. So those who wants to use it, you can reach to the support number. Anything that needs to be added, Surya?
So our pricing depends upon the usage. Different people have different requirements, different number of GSTs. So we will provide pricing. We'll provide pricing based on that. Please reach out to us and we'll get in touch with you.
Thank you, Surya. And thank you, GSTZen, for hosting this session. Yeah, and if there are any questions that have not answered, write back to support@gstzen.in. So the support team will answer your questions. Thank you all.
Thank you.